Yo, what's happening? It's man Samusa the Pharaoh. Right now I want to do a big talk of something that I thought would be really interesting to talk about, something of great importance. So, I'm bringing it to you, right? I'm giving it to you, right? Always that eternal life, always that, nothing else. Nothing but truth telling over here. Ain't no fabrication, ain't no picking perspectives. You know what I mean? We about the logical, true perception, the true perspective, the logical perspective in regards to where we around. Every problem is solved. Every every dialogue tells a story. All right, so boom, let's do it, right? Let's make it happen. Um, Stubbornness. Yeah, we're gonna talk about stubbornness because you know what? Stubbornness kills. This is how they got us. This is how they got us, bro. Stubbornness. And before I really get into it, and I see the little contents that I typed down in there. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about stubbornness. If you stubborn, I'm not attacking you. Want to know why? Because how can you not be? How can you not be stubborn in the reality that you cannot be gullible? When there's so many things, so many ideas, so many perspectives, so many things, so many different wavelengths, trying to change your patterns of thought, all these different, just so much shit. How can you not be stubborn? But in theory, we all are the same thing, no matter the race, no matter we all want the same things. We all human, right? Boom, right? Went there. We all human. Um, we all living in this reality together and being human and dealing with the same challenges. Um, the idea is that the way to say it straight up is that there is a way, and it's like when somebody's aware of how to deal with ourselves, and they start preaching and saying stuff that's on point and it's real. Will you be stubborn when that time comes? Will you be someone that kind of like fall back, or like would you try to get in the way? Like what type of position you gonna hold? What you gonna be like? Let's get to it. Today, by the way, is the spiritual holy day, the ancestral holy day in the Kemetic calendar. I'm actually gonna probably do it tomorrow, which is according to the Gregorian or just the Christian holiday is Christmas. Not really celebrating it this year. Uh, but happy holidays to everybody that do enjoy those festivities, and energies is kind of alleviated due to that type of vibration, because I'm noticing it's starting to go down now. A lot of people ain't celebrating the holiday, starting to wake up. Before you people that's basically you know what I'm saying, that find yourself being around your family and all that. That's where it always goes down to. That's where it breaks down back to. But just always keep in mind that you need to ascend. You can't be caught up in like a type of like in something that's not logical to the point that it's game like. It's not real. You know what I'm saying? Um, so this is what we got going on. All right. So like I said, we got everybody being stubborn. You know what I mean? So today is the 24th, the eve of that holiday, and it's the 2018. I got a little headache going on. It's all right. Be all right. Um, so basically, the stubbornness, right? We all stubborn, even me. But it's like stubbornness becomes a thing of inquiry. Like it's like what really is stubborn to say this is stubborn, just like what really is weird to say this is weird. Is stubbornness good? Is stubbornness bad? This is the type of mental dialogues that people is going through subconsciously and at some degree consciously, that they don't really kind of, in regards to the conscious, they don't really kind of take that, and they don't really kind of like look at it. That eye, they don't kind of like, it's just like it goes around their thought process. But so when you kind of like, and what I mean by that is like not everybody probably sit and think about, am I stubborn? I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying like in the regards to the actual dialogue of uh expression that deals with that level, like from its seated perspective, its seated wave is like what you're really doing is like it's coming from the perspective of like a stubborn mindset. Like you're always questioning yourself. You're not comfortable with a way of being or a way of thought, and it's actually very human like too. And that's one thing that's played on. That's why stubbornness actually becomes a high like a lower aspect of humanity, to say it like that. Just say it straight up. I think there's actually a lot of entities labeled named after that, from different perspectives and pantheons, because it's a very, very ancient thing about us. Is just we're capable of that. We create stubbornness. It's just part of us. It's part of our being. It's part of our becoming to higher things, to our back to our seats. So, but I want to make a point, something really interesting. Uh, with the concept of stubbornness and you being stubborn, right? Stubbornness is kind of like foresighted, should be foresighted and not so much foreshadowed. Well, it should be foresighted as a result of being foreshadowed by logic. Yet logic is something just like chaos. Like logic is the opposite of chaos, yet they are one and the same. Logic holds no boundaries. Like anything, logic can just become a narrative. Logic is really subjectable. Like logic doesn't necessarily mean a traditional way or a more proven approach towards life, or your humanity. Logic can also just mean like simply for problem solving, or you have a specific goal, so this becomes logical to preserve the goal. So it becomes the pictures that you out of logic you paint can be different, all different types of ways. Basically, you can paint all different types of picture, right? So let me give an idea of why we stubborn. Yeah, this is awesome. Let me give an idea of why we stubborn. So imagine you have, I don't know, anybody know what a fractal is? I actually do a lot of those type of arts. Like you got something at the seat or at the seat, and it kind of like, multiplies itself and spirals out, and it turns into this big, beautiful, hopefully beautiful thing. Yeah, and it's actually very, very prominent and dominant in nature, even inside of us and outside of us. It's everywhere. Cool. So if you didn't know what a fractal is, you can still look it up. You got a good premise to what a fractal is. So imagine you got a fractal, right? Imagine you got a pyramid or something like that, right? You kind of get an idea when I say pyramid, but it's really like a fractal. Imagine you got something on the top. You never heard, as they say, so as above, so below. Imagine you got something on the top, and these people or these things on the top are not really good, like-minded individuals. They might actually be a little sick, right? Not all of them, but a lot of them, and you will just never know until it's time for you to be aware. Until people on the top that's fighting that makes you aware on the bottom. Okay, that's just considering that's a thing. Uh, um, you would need to be not stubborn, not gullible or stubborn. You gotta always have your guard up because there's always some shit out there. And unfortunately, this is just life right now. Now, the narrative that I present, even further down in my talks, which it kind of deals with like a paradigm shifting of perspectives, and it just deals with bringing in logic and also solving at the same time. So as a result of the backbones that I'll speak on, the things that I learned that I'll speak on, well, surely enough, um, that I've learned that made me learn to get to the stuff I'm aware of, and the blueprint I have of approach to this reality around me is simply just like it's like a narrative that it becomes my everything. My whole, I could say my armor and my shield, but just my everything, the clothes underneath everything. It becomes my whole narrative of approach to actually dealing with this something that as which I don't necessarily, and this can be very helpful. Anybody watching this video, write this down. Something that as of which, as a result of learning more knowledge, I'm not really into fighting. As I'm not really into like kind of getting into it. Like you could be caught up as a rebel too. I'm more so of seeing through it and pulling away from it. And within that, I know it's have a big heart. So I actually realized that, from my physical conscious standpoint, I know it's have a big heart, but really that's just a seated wave of something higher, which is kind of like a family oriented man. All right. That's why I have a big heart. I'm family oriented. Okay. And when I talk about the Chromatic Zodiac and I talk about my zodiac, I'll really be able to explain that better. I don't need to waste time here because I'm going to do a video on that too. So I'm a family oriented man. I like to make sure the home space is clean. I like to keep, I take my home around me. You know what I mean? So, and I'm also, best based on the colonial Gregorian calendar. I'm also in the Leo cusp. So, um, so what that means is now I'm going to go about my aggressions or my whatever you want to call it, rebelliousness, or when I actually speak out or reflect myself emotionally and influence, I'm gonna do it in a way that's kind of considering bringing back people that's kind of similar to me, that or like people that just are caught up in something and not fully aware. So I'm always gonna be the one that like kind of awaken and say it how it is, even if it encourages death in the person. Like what that means is like I might say something so true yet and vulgar yet is a necessity for that person at the time, or just how they heard it, that when they hear it they don't feel comfortable, that they have to now make new decisions in their life. And the reason why it's like that is because when I say a word like that is because mentally they are removing themselves, their heart, from attachments that based off of their narratives of what they thought things was. All right, so boom. So when we going back to the concept of stubbornness, um it becomes a necessity. And now going back to what I said about when the time comes when somebody keep it real, it simply goes down to an aspect of where your heart is and how attached you are to something and the logic, and how your logic is truly foundated. Yet when I go into the analogy of something that I just said, now I'm not saying here busting names, I'm not really making anything in detail. I'm just simply saying an analogy that a lot of people can be like, you know what I mean? Too, right? Um Right. So that's something that, when you have somebody that's not of that and oppose that, it makes you curious of that. So now let's speak more stubborn directly. Let's finish up this fractal analogy. So I just killed the idealistic narrative of stubbornness by saying what it truly is at its positive seat and what it needs to be turned into moving forward, thus as a result of that. But now let's speak about it as its own thing, as actual stubbornness, like knowing better and just being stubborn, or just not listening, like actual stubbornness, grand scheme stubbornness, existing now. Let me finish up this fractal analogy. So the reason why like a fractal is like a multiplication of certain things. So when you see, we got a lot of crazy people in this world, even normal motherfuckers. So when you out in this world and you hear about people that's pedophiles and all that, there's actually a lot of motherfucking pedophiles amongst the in the square fucking radius that you walk in. My bad, I need to drink some water. I just finished eating a little bit. So after in the square radius as to which you fucking at, my nigga, like there's many people like that around, and it's almost so much that how can that be not a thing up in the top with the people that actually control a lot of things. And you start to wonder, at least if you're me, what the fuck do I gotta do with this shit? Like I don't know. Like I'm not into that shit. And that it might trigger your rebellion, but we ain't being, and I was a big Spider-Man fan, but we ain't no Spider-Man. So we not out here trying to fight people. We gotta fight it inside. We gotta remove it inside. Now there's physical ways to represent a shifting, yet despite that narrative, it's very important to realize and be aware of the things that can actually hold us back. And that's just stubbornness, because we are very powerful to hold things true to our heart and not let it go. And if we do not, approach and apprehend things, it becomes a illogical narrative. Now, this whole talk I'm speaking on directly about our individual stubbornness in regards to the actual equation we in. It can go on to a whole different topic, and I'd rather say that for another video. So right now, I want to speak on. So that's what I'm saying. Right? That's who is stubbornness. Now I'm speaking on who is stubbornness, but this is why we stubborn. Now, well, actually, I spoke on how people became stubborn. Now I want to speak on. I think it's funny because I was supposed to say who is stubborn first, and I just was trying to get on that analogy because it's really important. Now, who became stubborn? I mean, not how people became stubborn. Who is stubborn is like everybody. But let me break it down to the genders. That's a very sensitive topic nowadays for some reason. Now, you got people that's stubborn, right? And man, they's just stubborn because of shit they went through with their family, their parents, right? And none of that is real. A lot of that stuff is just a reflection, okay? Like a lot of that stuff is just you can really sit and talk on a very complex topic that diverses based on person to person and their personal spirit and past lives or whatever. But it always still goes back to the gate. At the end of the day, right? You and me, we all human and we all need to deal with ourselves and our experiences. Now, some people are birthed or have these type of tendencies due to what they dealt with when they was younger, and they have this notion, speaking from experience, especially me, with the sign I have, I had to overcome that and be more like I had to lean onto the more side of my cusp. But like some people so caught up in their thoughts and perspectives or reality based off their past experiences that they will not actually let go of it no matter what something good is for them, and it can mean like it can mean relationship, and it can mean business wise, it can mean spiritually, it can mean anything that just helps them move forward and come out of something that, let's go back to the analogy, is kind of like they're harvested. It's not really something that like is considered for their best interest, despite what they are in entangled with in their pastime, and how much they are into that, and how that actually feeds that same stubbornness from a different perspective. Um, Us men, shit, men is stubborn too. That's how it started. But a man, is we can be stubborn through sternness. Like we can be stubborn and we think that we're smart. We think that we're logical. We think we know a lot of things. But even a wise person know that there's always time to keep learning. There's nothing to learn. I mean, there's nothing to no, that's not that is always like you don't really know anything really when you really just can only see through the eyes and make sense of the basic things in front of you. And that's basically what I'm doing with. But the idea is that there's some guys out there that's just so caught up in their comfortability that they just believe they have it all figured out until something happens in their life that they can't explain. And it's just all out of consideration that they either spiritually are not in tune, or it's just because they don't truly own anything around them. And it's owned by people that they wouldn't really be caretaking of. Like, like how when you're a kid and you're caught up with your parents, you respect your parents, you know what I'm saying? Then you come out and you're in the world now, and then when they time to go, you can like maybe give them a space around your place or whatever. Like, it's like when you are dealing with people that cares nothing about you and has nothing to do with race at all, it becomes to a narrative where it's like, you represent this, and they kind of like unhumanistic and stuff. So that's very important. And all this stuff can create stubbornness. All this stuff can create complex situations and whatever and what sort. And this stuff can lead to stubbornness. And like this stuff can lead to like just certain mental paradigms. That's just you are your problem. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just speaking on that on its own, on its whole literally. I'm not just speaking about that on its literal concept. I'm just saying that as your logic is fucked up all the way. You know, like you have no actual physical narrative of where you actually have your feet on, and you are completely just descending. So on that same note, what is spirituality? I mean, what is spirituality? Sorry, I'm a little high. I smoked a little bit before this. What is stubbornness spiritually? Like, what does stubbornness do spiritually? Based on what I'm aware of so far, I can answer this, and this is why I'm happy I went about this way I went through, going from gender to spirituality. It's just like breaking down stubbornness on both hemispheres there, both scales. It's very important that we are aware that we have a spirit, and at the end of the day, that's what we reflect. And that's what we go back to. We are our spirit. Um, and the idea is like when you stubborn, right? It's just really a blockage, right? So when you're blocking something that you need, you may physically see things that you're dealing with, but it's like when you block the main thing that you need that is generated from the earth, from an energy channel that a lot of people's not aware of, and it starts there and it reflects just you and your mentality, your mindset. It's like if you stubborn there, you're not really trying to like learn the truth and like hear what the logic people is putting onto you, and you're not being aware of like that you have to be learning things uh and learning new things and not being too caught up in what you find comfortable, because you don't have a good keen idea of what comfortability should be, because your comfortability is subjectified based off a culture that's very barbaric, i.e. American culture. Speaking as an American myself, I'm still in America. I rely on America, so I'm not going to talk it like that. And obviously, I have some reflection and mirroring with America. Really, for me, that's just art and music. I like art and music, and I like to learn things. It's just we got to consider that this is very more connected to, goes back to us more than we actually may think. Uh, and It's like when you consider that you know it all, you have something out there that's just a product of the culture is what's going to be for you to help you on that level of dimension. It's just that in its own self is the wrong seat of a wave to approach it with. That's the wrong seat to sit in when you're approaching that. So it's like, you're not even thinking correctly. Um, but I could say one thing, that stubbornness, if it blocks us and it blocks our constant evolution, that it can block the, and it deals with that as a majority, as a whole fractal, that whole concept once again, it can block the energy of the planet. Now, the planet, believe it or not, is its own entity. The planet has things that we may not be aware of, but it has things that in the universe it has to uphold, despite what modern science says and what we think. The planet is a living thing in its own self, and it has its own energy and things and spirits that it must abide by. And basically, it's just, it could get complex, and I'm still learning that. It's just also very simple that the best way to say it is that the planet has its own energy, and we must abide by the energy of the planet because this is what we exist on, this is what we live on physically. And so, um, if we as a whole is blocking ourselves, we actually helping block the planet, and actually aid to the destruction of the planet. And that's how, all from the seat of stubbornness. Now, I went all the way back 20 minutes from like, why we stubborn and why it's not that serious, to now breaking down what you need to remove your stubbornness for, to then going into why and narratives of the reality around you, and then just, remind you why you're stubborn, and like, saying why people can't enjoy their life because they're stubborn, and then going and like have good things come to them, and now going into how that harms the world, because this is just a blockage. Stubbornness at its best aspect is just a blockage. It's just a narrative. Excuse me. It's a narrative of a blockage where you are stubborn because of so and so, and you are just not listening. You're not being humble. You're not allowing yourself to be open up and suggestible to newer things, into better things, into truer things. Like they have this whole narrative of where we think we're right all the time, when it's crazy how we almost forget that only one thing, and that in its own self, is a setup. But I'm not gonna go far, but in that, but like basically, there's always gonna just be one right or true thing or something that really happened or was really going on, and that is dictatable off of anything else that is inquired off of that same thing. So it's like even an opinion can be completely off of a its proper narrative to even be correct or make sense. but you can still agree on it because of your idea of that narrative being this, and that opinion is actually subjectable, or is in fifth of that actual narrative. But in reality, you're tripping. You bugging, son. You not even, it's not on grid. It's just like completely off. And that's how they want us to be. That's how, it's almost like you're still slaves, basically, right? What Kanye said, like, I wouldn't want to be a slave for 300 years. I automatically knew what he was trying to say. I know he a little obnoxious, but I automatically knew what he's trying to say. But that's it. Like, that guy's a fucking legend. He's just, there's a lot going on, and he's dealing with the complexities too. He's dealing with rationalizing that, just like anybody else that's awakened or awoke. So I think I pretty much said everything I need to say. So once again, this harms the world because it blocks the world. If it blocks everybody as a whole from moving forward, it slows down and blocks the earth, and to the point that the earth gotta it uses its ratio of power to kind of pose that on the people that's blocking the earth, or just to kind of, do whatever they're gonna do. It could do anything it wants to do, just to kind of like try to handle the issue, just like how you would with your own body. And it's like it's all just starting from us as a majority, as a collective conscious. That's it, man. And so Moosa's out. Peace and bless. I bring wealth to the mind, nothing but gold. And I'm out. Subscribe if you want. I ain't one of them guys. I'm not gonna put a gun in your head and say to subscribe. Subscribe if you want. It would make sense to like this, because that'll be some logical ass shit. And keep it real, fam. Always keep it true real. Peace, 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 and only that. Hutsap. Eddie Harus and my Kemetic family. Peace.